Hey all, Grolo here. Welcome to Back in Focus, where we take a look back at the happenings of prior weeks, do our best to make sense of it, and weigh in. And the theme for last week was communication. I'm going to focus primarily on the discussion surrounding Discord, but speaking of communication, I do want to give an honorable mention to CitizenCon Direct. Yes, this year, on October 11th, we'll be attending CitizenCon digitally instead of in person. And this makes a ton of sense. I don't have a ton of things to say other than good thinking. They're crunching hard on Squadron 42, and they're pushing hard to stabilize Star Citizen. What they don't need right now is a huge production. As a matter of fact, I'd say skip the huge productions until Squadron 42 is live and in our hands. Keep everyone focused on what matters most. That said, information and communication is important too. It keeps us all interested and on the hook. So kudos to on some form of digital experience. I'm looking forward to it. And for what it's worth, I'll definitely be watching and reacting to the digital CitizenCon live on this channel. We'll make it a party. It'll be fun. And like last year, if there's any really meaty topics at CitizenCon, we will definitely deep dive on those afterward. So mark your calendar, October 11th. We'll certainly be talking about this a lot more as we get closer. But for now, on to the big topic at hand, Discord. Now, for anyone who's been watching, you know that around a month ago, a flurry of articles came out about Discord being in talks with banks about an IPO. Discord is taking the tried and true path of operating at a loss, a big loss, in order to gain an enormous number of users, and then turning the screws on those users and profiting off of them immensely. Other very successful companies have done exactly this. Think Facebook. Now, up until recently, Discord has grown by providing users, in particular gamers, with a compelling voice and chat platform. It is definitely not without its flaws, but the fact is that obviously it's compelling. Every gaming community now exists as a Discord server, or at least has one as part of its community infrastructure. But the fact is, it's not sticky enough for their liking. I'm sure, if something truly better came along, something obviously better, people could switch, right? It'd have to be something truly and massively out of this world, though, because the investment people have made in Discord servers is pretty large, from channel and bot configuration to growing large user bases. Any migration away from Discord would be pretty painful and full of loss for most. You would lose large portions of your community. You'd have to, anything that wasn't provided by the new platform that you would normally use a bot for, you'd have to wait for bots to be developed. It would be a Herculean task. But not impossible. And I wager that Discord would like to see it inch closer to impossible. Have you seen TeamSpeak 6? I know. A lot of you probably haven't thought about TeamSpeak in a long time. But I'm telling you, it's alive and kicking. It's found its niche because Discord is not good at everything. But more on that another time. TeamSpeak shipped what it's calling version 6 at the beginning of this year. And the company behind it is moving into providing servers to players directly, something that they never really did before. Historically, TeamSpeak always relied on third-party server resellers. But as of TeamSpeak 6, servers that offer the full suite of TeamSpeak 6 functionality, they're only available through TeamSpeak itself, directly. I'm not sure if this is temporary, as part of their testing because TeamSpeak 6 is still in beta, or if it's part of a larger strategy shift. But the features are pretty good. They've brought things like screen sharing and chat that looks pretty good into this TeamSpeak 6 client. Now, It's nowhere near the level of polish that Discord has. But it definitely shows that, yeah, the competition is not dead, and a community could switch if they really wanted to. Well, Discord has a plan for that, and they call it the Discord Social SDK. For those unfamiliar with what SDK stands for, it stands for Software Development Kit, and it's basically a library that you bring into your game, right? Like you could bring the whole Discord platform into your game with this SDK, and you employ it as your communications backbone. If you watch some of the recent videos we did on Spacetime DB, it offers SDKs for your game, and those SDKs offer to solve like all the problems around storage for you, which we've talked about extensively on this channel now. But this Discord SDK is not too dissimilar, but it's Discord saying, hey, don't bother building chat or voice features yourself. Like, use our SDK. We've already built it for you. And don't worry about all those strings you see attached. So Bellular News put out a video last week, and he did an amazing job at breaking this down in the context of Discord's broader financial picture. I want to play that now, and I'll drop some comments during, but mostly afterward. And I'll give some of my opinions on where I see all of this going, like what challenges could be waiting for Discord and why we should care, right? And I'll have the full link, or the link to the full Bellular News video down below, so you can go check out the whole thing yourself. But let's roll some of it now.
Discord wants to go public, and that's something we already knew from 2024, but what's now changed is that the Financial Times have got sources who say that Discord are actively talking to banks, and that means that it's not a desire, it is a plan that they are progressing along. And if none of this would impact us as users, in a way we wouldn't care. But it will impact users. It arguably has. Things are changing on the app literally right now. And if you've smelled whiffs of enshittification, it's not because you've...
Enshittification. Oh my gosh, that is the first time I've heard that. Wow.
Gone mad, it's because
That's
you're
amazing.
a human, we know what enshittification is, we know patterns, and we really hope Discord doesn't go bad. We also know that Discord fundamentally has a problem. Money. That's the problem Discord has, but in a way it's a problem that they always knew they would have. You see, often success is about picking your problem, right? What you're kind of willing to have as an issue, and being a venture-backed tech company, Discord's problem, the thing that they sacrificed, was short-term profitability. And that might sound completely insane, but it's actually typical and it is a real business model. For something like Discord, the value is in users. So there's no point over monetizing a small social network if what you really want to do is grow, and then once you're huge, then generate mad returns, but not necessarily through the company being super profitable. Oh no. Generate mad returns for investors and shareholders by either being acquired by another larger company or by going public. It's very much the typical model, and for Discord, that meant them raising $1 billion across 17 funding rounds over the last while. I'll return to that money soon, but you needed that context of money as a problem, that they've raised all this venture money, to basically understand what's coming next. It's the vital context. Because if you thought the Discord Nitro boosts and cosmetics were enough for an app like this to really work, you'd be wrong. Because Discord are about to massively expand ads.
Yeah. Nitro and the stuff we have now is just the tip of the iceberg.
Advertisements are going to hit Discord mobile this June. Of course, they've been on desktop since last year. And for Discord, they are genuinely a key to the future. Look, here's the thing. I don't like it, by the way, but advertisements do work. That's why RuneScape is even toying with them for its free tier. It's why premium streaming services have now got ads, even on a paid tier.
I may be alone on this, but I genuinely refuse to accept ads in any product that I use. I will only use products that either are adless because I just pay for them outright, or they offer like some kind of a premium tier paid option to get rid of ads. If they do not have one of those two models, then I will not use the product. Just I view like my time as the most valuable thing to me, and ads just feel like a waste of my time. And I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but that's the way it is for me. Like that Amazon Prime Video service, that's the one that I know of that recently introduced ads on basically a paid product, because Amazon Prime Video has been bundled with Amazon Prime. And so if you have been subscribed to that for the 2-day shipping and all that stuff, then you've just got the Prime kind of for free. Well, I guess that wasn't really working out, or it wasn't making them enough money, and so they introduced ads into that bundled service. But they offered you a way to pay a little bit more each month to get rid of the ads and get it back to the way it was. And of course, I paid it. And I will always pay for the premium of a product as long as it is worth the premium. The moment it's not, I will no longer pay for that product, but I will not go to the ad tier. I will just get rid of the product. That's me. And so if Discord does go this route, which obviously they're going to, as they start introducing ads onto the platform, they need to give us a way to pay out of it. To his point, like, Discord may be one of the few things that I don't have the option of getting rid of entirely, but rest assured, like, if there is no way out of the ads, I will certainly attempt to mitigate it in any way possible. Anyway, let's continue.
Straight up, if a company just wants more money, ads are the go-to solution, assuming the audience is entrenched and sticky. And if it's something where, it's the only place you can get your TV show conveniently, or say Discord where all your friends are, yeah, you're probably going to tolerate ads. So as a business model, it makes sense. And in fairness to Discord, their ads are not like most. They actually try to do them well. They've got this whole branding about them being quests, and there's in-app cosmetics. That's decently high effort, right? They're smart enough. They're fairly inoffensive, but importantly for brands, they're action, they're results driven, they're very trackable. That is amazing for brands actually tracking what their ad spending is even doing. It's very important. Say if you're an ad buyer and you want to have good numbers you can show to a higher up in the office. And Discord also has another thing. It is massive in demographics that are traditionally harder to reach through conventional marketing channels. That is a huge value. It's the sort of value you'd want to demonstrate if you planned to go public. But here's the thing. I thought we were going to talk about Discord ads for a bit and talk about some of the basic businessy things. The basic story of platform good, platform grow, platform is venture funded, ads and enshittification will follow is still there. But what I did not expect was the grand strategy, the chess that they're playing, and everything else that we dig up. Being nice to have is one thing, but being essential to have is another thing. And Discord wants to be essential, not just to you and me, but also to the industry. So to do that, they have a plan to become a piece of vital internet infrastructure. Now, we've already seen some of this, but only in the form of little nice to haves, like having a game integration that means, oh, you can see the final circle in PUBG on Discord if your friends are playing the game. That's hardly vital. That's hardly something you can pitch to the world as being transformational for your business. So how about this instead? Discord as your entire social system. And it means that rather than being a nice to have, it's them literally running part of a game. So it's called the Discord Social SDK. And honestly, it's a pretty genius plan, and it is an area ripe for disruption. So as the name suggests, it's an SDK, it's a developer tool. And put simply, it is a complete off-the-shelf system that will handle friends lists, game invites, text chat, and voice chat, all without needing a Discord login. It will all be ran on Discord. It is Discord, but actually logging into Discord isn't required. Though, of course, if you do log into Discord, you'll get extra features. Now, obviously, I then think about what Discord has done with having cosmetics. Oh, there you go. A natural deep integration. That's the kind of thing you can really sell an investor on. So basically, it's free, cross-platform social infrastructure that works out of the box and can run that whole system for your video game. And so far, the developers behind Rust, Splitgate 2, and
free and out of the box feels a bit of a stretch. We'll get into the free thing. I'll save that for a little bit later in this video, but out of the box, like no SDK works out of the box. It's going to take effort to integrate this thing. Like like you can't just install the Discord SDK into your game and like boom, your chat system is online. Like you're still gonna have to do your own like in-game UIs and all that stuff, right? So it's not a complete out-of-the-box offering. Like if you look at PAX Day versus Rust, they're all kind of already using the system. Like they all still have their own custom UIs tailored for the game and etc. But it is an out-of-the-box back end. Once you've done your custom UI work and the integration between your UI and the SDK and all that stuff, but nothing like this is out of the box.
Theorycraft Games being a company, they've had early access, but the overall thing is now public for everybody. And in terms of competition, Steam Voice Chat, the Battle.net apps voice chat, I mean, things that exist but aren't really fantastic. And yes, Steam does more. You can join your friends, and that's the sort of thing that this will actually support with the new Discord system. But the point basically is, Steam is very much tied to a storefront. That means that it can't really be as ubiquitous as something like Discord can be. And since so many people already use Discord, I can very much imagine users actually asking developers for this.
That is a very important point. Well, a couple very important points there, back to back. One is that the competition is pretty bad. Like Battle.net chat and voice is bad. Steam is pretty bad. And the note there about Steam being tied to a storefront and therefore not being ubiquitous, not being able to be as ubiquitous as Discord, I think that's a valid point. But what's really interesting about that is the reverse is not true. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. I don't want to disrupt this video too much, but put that in your hat.
System to be used. But remember the context of this story. Discord wants to go public. And to go public successfully, they will need to demonstrate humongous growth potential. And that's why moving beyond just having users and towards being digital infrastructure is such a well-tuned move to accomplish their goals. It's vital to their plan. But with all of this, we still have that worry of inshitifying Discord. Let's return to the money. With what you've just heard, this will matter a hell of a lot more, and it's actually a more dramatic story than I kind of expected. Okay, do you remember how the pandemic drove stock markets absolutely mad? So Discord very much thought they were part of that vanguard of future companies, right? Where it was always going to be work from home, everyone's using Zoom on their Peloton, the world has changed and it's never going back. At that time, Discord thought of themselves as the community hub for the world, right? More than just gaming, they very much wanted to grow radically beyond where they had started. That didn't really come to pass. They very much now realized they are a social app for gaming. That means for them that infinite user growth would not happen. And that suddenly means that strange concepts like profit and loss actually started to become important to them. Because of that, Discord axed 17% of their headcount as a part of a plan to be profitable by 2024. But in the last year, it seems things have only escalated. So the Financial Times say that they are now talking to banks in order to fund going public. 2024 saw advertisements become a thing. 2025 is seeing those move over to mobile. On the whole going public thing, for their part, Discord are publicly downplaying that that's what they're trying to do. But that's actually exactly what you would do if you wanted to go public, but didn't want rampant speculation to overhype their valuation. And in this case, well, we've got robust sourcing from the Financial Times that says they're literally talking to the banks. And the valuation number will actually matter here. So as I said earlier, they've had $1 billion in funding across 17 rounds. So here's how those investors get their tasty returns. Option number one is to be acquired, and Microsoft allegedly offered them $12 billion in 2021, but they rejected. So I guess no Microsoft Teams gaming for us. Thank God, that would have been horrible. Option two then is to go public. That very much seems to be the plan, and if you watched our video on Thunderful lately, you'll know where that kind of thing can go. Now certainly that Discord rejected a $12 billion offer, that certainly implies either they really didn't want Microsoft or they believe, actually, they have a fair valuation way higher. But that $12 billion offer was in 2021. As of right now, they do have a valuation of about $15 billion, so at least for me, it'll be damn interesting to see, whenever they do go public, what they're actually going to be able to raise. But okay, what does this actually mean for you and for me? Yeah, it's time to talk about enshittification. As we've seen so many times in this channel, things fundamentally change whenever you go public, because what happens then is everything is laid bare for the public and investors to pick apart. But more importantly, the demands of those investors change. So if you're a traditional old business, maybe what people want is a juicy dividend increase. But if you're a modern tech company, well, maybe you'll be seen as what's called a growth stock, where it's not about dividends, it's about pushing up that stock price. And for Discord to be a growth stock, which naturally is its place as a tech company, I'd say, it will need to constantly show great execution while dangling a juicy new carrot over every quarter as much as they can. And not just a small juicy carrot that'll drive some revenue, no, large strategic carrots. The sorts of things that let them tell stories to investors of transformational growth. That's why the SDK, the idea of Discord basically running social infrastructure in games, is actually goddamn huge. While their ads expanding is great, you want to have multiple layers at which you can have that big transformational growth. And what lies at the heart of that growth is you. It is your value as a user, and frankly, the leverage that they have over you. Not necessarily in an evil way, but if they run the infrastructure that is your game's social network, they run your friend groups like Discord server, obviously, it's going to be hard for you to move. You could move personally, but are you really going to convince all of your internet friends to leave Discord? And even if you do convince your close friends to leave, what if you're playing a game with other people who are on Discord? It's very, very hard to leave. And
Exactly. I mean, this is, it'd be like trying to talk people off of moving from Facebook or Twitter, right? Like, this is such a Herculean challenge when something is embedded like this. Like, I would argue that Discord is already there, but I mean, moves like this is going to really cement it for sure.
that's why moves that make money off you being on Discord are fundamentally important here. But the thing is, being public cuts both ways. I've just talked up the story of showing big growth potential, but let's say numbers don't look good. Let's say earnings growth or earnings per share or margin go down. That's shocking, that's scary, and that's exactly the sort of thing that leads to damaging cost savings, right? Short-term cuts, cutting your nose to spite your face, new monetization schemes, and all sorts of lunacy that we are now used to. And I think the best example of that is ads. Discord have done ads in a way that I would say is well designed, fairly thoughtful, and with a decent amount of care, and also a decent amount of user control. That's because they did adverts on their own terms, with their own goals and incentives, which were longer term about showing growth, likely to successfully go public. But if investors need a lot of money now, if they need to turn around their story as a company, will they have the time to do ads in a thoughtful way that actually works with users? Or will it be short-term money me now because the C-suite are under a lot of pressure from investors and analysts? That is how going public fundamentally changes the sorts of decisions that a company makes and the goals that they have. Hang on a second though, we gotta stop, we gotta have a reality check. The truth is that Discord is basically incredible. Compared to where things were in the past, it's essentially a piece of magic. I mean, I remember the days of Ventrilo, of Xfire. Remember Xfire? To be as huge as Discord, with as many features, and all of those essentially free, is absolutely wild. I mean, Slack's cheapest offering is £7 a month, Teams is £3.10 a month, Campsite looked promising, but it was for work and Notion bought it and then shut it down. And there are other options, some free and open source ones like Revolt. Revolt is free, open source, very Discord-like, but it's also still very much in development, and anything would have to get past Discord's moat. The fact that we're all real bought into Discord. In some cases, we've even bought cosmetics or had a Nitro subscription. That would make changing away feel bad. You see, the best way to be directly aligned with your users is to make money directly for them, to have them literally pay for your software. We live in a world, though, where people kind of demand free, but then adverts are kind of broadly hated. I feel like across the world, this is coming to a head. Because if people are directly paying for the software they're using, then as a developer, you're focusing on features and the experience of that customer, not necessarily new schemes or expanding your scope. which of course we have seen Discord have to do. Is there a world where Discord does not have to do ads, where it does not have to do this SDK, where actually, just off the back of Nitro, it can be what it needs to be for gamers and have good incentives? Is that actually possible? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but in the world of going public, where the line must go up, it's not possible. Because the funding model that leads to Discord even existing in the first place essentially hinges on a big IPO or a big acquisition payday. And that means the development has got to feed into a growth narrative, and that is the recipe for enshittification. I hope Discord gets this right, because what they've built is a genuinely incredible piece of software and an incredible service. It would be sad to see it go wrong. And to learn another story of Valve's algorithm and what we learned about it when we dig through the data, what it gets right, and some problems that it's solving that are actually new problems, watch this video next.
In my experience, it seems difficult to get this right over the long term. Remember when we used to buy paper magazines at the checkout counter? And you had some like ad inserts in there, but they were easy to flip past, right? Fast forward to today, like if you dare click on a Wired magazine article, like your PC is practically strangled as ads crawl from every corner of the page, right? Completely hiding the content you went there to read in most cases, and presenting you with all sorts of puzzles and challenges just to get through the ad storm to the text you wanted to read. In general, although I agree that ad models can work, I'm kind of vehemently against them, like exactly because the user experience is often sacrificed to make them work, which is what Bellular News is calling like enshittification. It's just a far simpler model to create a good product that people pay for, right? Like TeamSpeak, where the interests of both sides are aligned. Like, I want to make you a good product that you will give me money for, right? There's no room in that model for, well, let me sneak in this data collection feature, because then you're like, no, I'm not going to pay for that. It was mentioned in the video that Discord was amazing for a free service, and it was compared to many other services costing like £7 or £3 or whatever. I don't even know what that translates to USD, but the fact is, it's never been a free service. It has cost a tremendous sum, actually, to provide this to us. And while you and I have not been footing the bill, or at least the entire bill, or even a significant portion of the bill, others have been. And the bill will surely come due as part of this IPO, and we'll pay it in some form of subscription or a degraded user experience that collects our data and advertises to us, right? Just like other social networks like Facebook and whatnot. Like, you are the product, right? It's going to be the same thing here. Enshittification. Now, they've got a pretty good plan taking shape. As he says, like, it's even starting to seem obvious, like, what lies beyond the immediate plans and where this can go. So let's get into it here. Like, first, let's talk about the challenges that Discord's going to face with their social SDK. Perhaps the biggest challenge is just going to be they need to convince companies to give up control of the social experience. Now, some companies have invested heavily in this, right? Like Blizzard with Battle.net. CIG intends to marry its in-game communication with its homegrown communication platform, which they call Spectrum. Now, these are large companies with, existing communication backbones that can or will soon already be reaching outside the confines of the game. Although, at least Blizzard, like, their experience isn't great. Battle.net sucks. Like, the out-of-the-game chat and voice experiences, even the in-game experience here, like, nobody uses it. We have yet to see with CIG, because, they have some limited stuff in-game right now. Like, they have nothing working between the game and the out-of-game experience, so someday we'll see what that all looks like. But so far, just what we're seeing, like, I think looks a hell of a lot better than what BattleNet is offering. Like, whether it ever attains Discord level polish is yet to be seen. But and I don't know of all the titles that have these kinds of offerings. Like, fill me in the comments if you know of any I'm leaving out that we should be thinking about. But then there's countless smaller studios and games that certainly cannot afford these types of investments at all. And without a doubt, some or many of them will look at this as a pretty fair trade. Now, this is not a new challenge. This reminds me of Apple and Google's assault on the automobile. You remember that? It hasn't been that long ago. Car companies were not eager to give up control of the screen in the middle of the console in your vehicle. But over time, like one after another, ceded control to CarPlay and Android Auto. Car makers like BattleNet gave us something, but it was pretty poor. It was a pretty poor experience, an isolated one. The extent of the integration between our car system and our other gear was like maybe some Bluetooth transfer of contacts so that you could have your contacts stored in your car, but then like keeping them up to date was a total pain. Or maybe some songs on a USB drive or on your phone connected to a USB port. Like, not that much more. I mean, that was kind of what you got. Now you compare that to now. I get in the car. I have an iPhone and a car equipped with CarPlay. I get in there. It's aware of my calendar. One tap, I'm on my way to like my next appointment. All my playlists are on the screen. If a text message comes in while I'm driving, I get like an on-screen alert. It gets read to me. The level of integration is pretty high. I remember like Toyota and Lexus. They held out for a long time. They did not want to give that screen up, and they weren't alone. But they fell just in the past couple of years and gave in to it. Now there's still some holdouts, I'm sure. Like Tesla comes to mind. But if Discord plays with cards right, I think it could pull this off the way that CarPlay and Android Auto pulled it off. It's already landing some early adopters. It'll need to convince quite a few more. Like if it succeeds in that, like then eventually it's going to reach a point where like it becomes compelling. Where like CarPlay and Android Auto, you almost have to get on board to be competitive, right? Users will start to demand it. Like I remember at one point reading like that things like CarPlay and Android Auto were like at the top of people's lists whenever they were making a decision on buying a car. I mean, that's just insane. But like, it's not crazy to think that like at some point in the future, like if your game does not support Discord's social SDK, that may be a reason that you just decide not to get it. At that point, the dominoes start to fall. But let's talk for just a bit on why it would take any convincing at all. Now, depending on your perspective, you may be looking at this and thinking like, this is a no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't a game do this? Or you may see it as a massive overstep on Discord's part, or somewhere in between. If I were a game maker considering this, here's the trade-offs that I would be looking at. Number one, potentially I don't have to worry about any chat infrastructure or tooling, such as like, the moderation tooling and stuff they might have. Though I'll still need to build the UI, as we talked about earlier. But the counterpoint here is that most games that make use of chat will already have a lot of other infrastructure in play, and chat infrastructure is really not a heavy lift. So, kind of a wash on that one. Really going to depend on what's important to you. Number two, my game's chat breaks out of the game's confines for free. This lets me offer something that only some of the bigger games offer today, which could be compelling, but the counterpoint here is the cost, because it's definitely not free. There may be no dollar cost, but as the game maker, I would in fact be handing over like a ton of data to Discord. And we all know the value of data today. Like, we live in like a data economy. I mean, just look at the other social networks. Because I'm handing over all my user data, like who's playing my games, when they're playing, along with all the chat data. And even if the chat data is end-to-end encrypted, which I don't know, it may or may not be. I haven't read, I don't even know if that's documented, but even if it was, like, I can still infer a lot, such as engagement, right? By looking at things like message volume, time of day, that sort of thing. So when you really start to break down what you're giving them, the cost begins to look pretty high to me. And also keep in mind that you're giving up completely the out-of-game experience, just like the automakers completely gave up the experience to Apple and Google on what that center console became. Discord will have full control of what it looks like. They'll be able to monetize it in any way they see fit, which could, affect how your game is perceived. Now, as at least in the early days, as if we reach a point where like all games are adopting this, then that basically becomes a wash. Except for the fact that, sometimes ads can conflict with, experiences. That'll be a whole thing that Discord gets into. Like, it's something that a lot of these places already handle today. Like, I don't want these types of ads shown next to my product, etc. So it's a really good deal for Discord. But number 3, it kind of hooks your game into a platform that may raise visibility of your game and get more people returning or playing for the first time. And this one's huge. And there's not many counterpoints here, other than, returning players don't really matter for some classes of games, but new players matter to all of them. So while the first 2 points, first point was kind of a wash. Second point felt like you were definitely giving Discord more than you were getting, at least for me. The third point alone may eventually compel game adoption in the same way that Steam does today. Except the Discord social SDK is just for games with chat, right? Think again. This is how empires rise and fall in tech. If you're old enough to remember when Google.com burst onto the scene, tell me, did you expect them to dethrone Microsoft Office when you performed your first Google search? Or Hotmail? You remember Hotmail? Microsoft bought it and squandered the hell out of that thing. But that's okay. Google does the same shit nowadays. Anyway, the Discord social SDK is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Discord. When it comes to Discord's ambitions, that'd be my guess. It's easy to see how they can move from like a chat-centric offering to other things, such as achievements visible in your Discord profile, or they've already kind of got game status working in Discord, but the integration could go much deeper. That would be definitely another step forward. And suddenly, this is sounding like it overlaps with Steam quite a bit. Remember when Steam added streaming? Does anybody actually use it? And don't get me wrong here, like, I'm a big fan of Steam. They do a lot of good. And in hindsight, like, maybe they should have beat Discord to the punch on the in-game chat integration, given their position. But frankly, if I were Steam, I'd have my eye on Discord. Discord and Steam are probably among the first few apps that any gamer installs on a new PC. Steam has the storefront. Discord owns the social experience, as was hinted at, or as was stated in the video. But as I said then, like, while Steam being a storefront doesn't give it as pervasive of a position as Discord's social network status does, the same is not true in reverse. Could Discord become a storefront? I mean, it already is, kinda, but right now it's just selling server upgrades, and like it's allowing servers to monetize roles and stuff like that. So they already have the beginnings of store functionality in there. I'd be watching Discord if I were Twitch too. I would guess there's more people streaming in Discord than on Twitch. Possibly even more total video hours being streamed. Right now, there's limitations such as, you need to be in the person's like voice channel to watch the stream, and so I would guess that even if there's more video hours being broadcast on Discord right now, I would assume there's far less being consumed. But imagine if those limitations just went away. At the top of your Discord server list right now, you have like an icon for your DMs, which go cross servers, right? Well, there could easily be like a home button there that takes you to a page full of people streaming from across servers. Maybe anybody that opted in to being a public stream. Be a pretty social experience to like pop up one of those streams and share it with your voice channel you were hanging out in. I think to some extent, like the social nature of a Discord streaming platform could be even more compelling. So you begin to think about these things, a picture begins to paint itself here on how Discord could begin to wiggle its way into the Steam space and wiggle its way into the Twitch space, and with not a ton of effort. Remember, Google started with just search. Even Google Ads, which dominates advertising on the internet today, did not exist when Google launched, let alone their Office products, their mail products, their phones, their Android like all that. All that was just one natural progression out of another after another, which I could see Discord doing. And even if Discord never lands like the big fish, like Star Citizen or WoW, that's neither here nor there. Like Steam hasn't landed those either, but it hasn't impeded their success in any way. Besides, Discord sucks for games like Star Citizen, which is a tangent I want to avoid for now, but perhaps a good topic for a future video, because the reason it sucks, I believe, is an architectural one. And honestly, Star Citizen's scope is so large and its concerns are so different from other games that it makes sense truly for them to kind of own their whole thing soup to nuts. So anyhow, what do I think about all this? I think it makes sense for Discord, the company, which needs to grow and become profitable. But I share Bellular News' concern about shitification of Discord being like an unescapable eventuality. But with so many natural areas for them to expand into, I think they could stave that off for quite some time. If they play their cards right. I mean, it depends. There's going to be a lot of pressure, like Bellular pointed out. There's going to be a lot of rich people who feel owed a lot of money. And I think beyond that, I think competition is good. I hope Discord brings competition to things like Twitch and Steam, but in a way that gives us choice, like more choice, not less. Because I'd want to see the competition, like the people they are competing with, raise their game too. But I can be a bit of a skeptic, and the skeptic in me is squinting at the play to become like some kind of irreplaceable gaming social backbone. Like in the old days, it was simple to swap voice and chat platforms when something superior came along. Once upon a time, your gaming community had to have like an IRC channel. Then it had to have a web forum, and then like a TeamSpeak or a Ventrilo server. Now it has to have a Discord server. What's next? Well, if they get their tendrils there far enough, like what's next may not even be a viable question for quite some time. To To be honest, like I said, I think we're already there to some degree. You know, we run voice platforms other than Discord today, like TeamSpeak primarily, in situations where Discord sucks, which is primarily any time you need like a lot of people communicating at the same time. Discord's definitely more like tuned to be like either a casual social setting or like a couple leaders leading a bunch of people. Like I've seen Discord work well for 50 people, like in a Warcraft raid or something. It works really well, but like I've also seen Discord perform terribly for like a group of 10, where like all 10 people need to be kind of communicating in parallel. Situations like that, like existing technologies like TeamSpeak have done a lot better, and that's where their niche is, right? But we would never be able to run our community on like TeamSpeak alone. Discovery of the community alone would go through the floor. So as much as I would love it to be a choice, it really just isn't. Discord's already a requirement for gaming, for running a gaming community. And all of this news and discussion just tells me it'll remain that way for a long time. And for the most part, I expect gamers to welcome these new features until the enshittification begins, at which point, you know, the question will become like, how much will we tolerate? And like I said earlier, at least give us a way out. let us pay some money to get rid of the enshittification. Because like I said, given the choice between paying for ads or experiencing ads or paying to get rid of them, I'm always going to choose the latter. But what I would really like to see the most, now here comes a bit of a rant, which I apologize in advance for. This is just my opinion, okay? As such, it is neither right or wrong, okay? There's all kinds of bias here, but I would like to see Discord charge for servers. We'll talk about that in the technical dive we do in the Discord someday, but like flat out, like the old days. You know, Bellular News raised the question like, is there a world in which Discord could provide us a service without enshittification? Maybe, but definitely not with an IPO launch. And that's why I'm never going to get this, but my dream is. And here's why. Like, I blame Discord. I assign a good bit of blame to Discord for the fracturing and shrinking of gaming communities in general. You know, it happened pretty fast once the Discord came onto the scene and basically mimicked every other social platform, which, you know, I think we now all widely recognize as putting distance between people, you know, instead of bringing them together like you would kind of think. There seems to be some consensus around this, at least the articles I've been reading. I don't pretend to be an expert here. I'm consuming articles. I read about it. I find it interesting. I don't really, outside of YouTube, I don't really engage on many other social networks, if any. So, well, other than Discord. But do you remember like logging in at night back in the early to mid 2000s, and like there was always like 50 to 80 people on your like TeamSpeak or Ventrilo server? I mean, man, those were the days, right? Now, a lot of people I know now predominantly hang out in Discord servers of like 3 to 5 people. Like, the number of small friend group Discord servers, they have got to dwarf every other type of Discord server out there, I'm convinced. And I think this has to do a lot with the changing social landscape in MMOs, too. You know, the community that formed outside of the game heavily influenced what transpired inside the game. And, like, those places are not forming anymore. Not like they used to. They're just fewer and further between now. And I attribute a lot of that to, like, the cost model changing on voice platforms. I don't expect to ever get this wish, like I said. It's just too lucrative for them to have everyone pay their part rather than just server operators, but I'm putting it out there anyway. And for anyone out there that is like me and love those types of communities, head over to unhinged.gg, where we're going to keep it going within Discord and beyond Discord at times as needed. And that's that. What do you think? Is Discord the best thing since sliced bread? Do you miss another voice platform? Do you wish Discord could do something that an old platform did? Or how much ad clutter would you tolerate in Discord? Do you agree that Steam and Twitch are some natural competitors of Discord's? Can you think of any others? I would love to hear all of you weigh in on any and all of these questions in the comments below. This video was focused on Discord, the business, and my thoughts on its strategy and direction. But it occurred to me while doing this that, a technical look at Discord and some of its competitors, both old and new maybe, might be fun. And maybe taking a closer look at the trade-offs that each make. I'm kind of thinking of that in the back of my mind right now. So if that topic would be any of interest to you, let me know. Anyway, I look forward to discussing all of this further in the comments. But for now, Grolo out.